And we are live.
All right. Hello, everyone, at the Vivid Publishing CouchCon. We got a great show for you today. We have a, kind of a crazy cast and crew here for this roundtable discussion. Don't miss the shuttle, the future of digital comics. I'm Matt, aka M. Scott Russell, and my co-host today is Crypto Comics Marketplace, Jared, aka the Bug Magnet. Jared, you want to do some introductions? Sorry.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you for turning that over to me. Sorry about that, y'all. I just, suspense. I wanted to create suspense. So first, I'm going to start off with an introduction. Gemma Young. She is creator of Temerity, Children of Eldair, an awesome writer, an awesome artist. We have next in line, well, I'm not sure how they line up in line, but I believe it's David Lilly with Dreamkeeper's Comic, Vivid Publishing, and CouchCon. Next, we have Jamie Colby with the Core Team Comics and Zolek. And when I mention your guys' name, wave so that we make sure that they're seeing who I'm talking about. Next, we have Cardell Cole with Top 2. Next, we have Amy with Gypsy Leaf Art. Next, we have Chad Harden with Temerity. Next, we have Dan Coate with Zen Intergalactic Ninja. That's so awesome. Next, we have Jeremy Burley. Sorry, Jeremy. I totally slaughtered that. I'm so sorry. With Morningstar. Next, we have Joe Spicer with Starcross Comics. And then we have S.K. Malvo with Music Maker. Okay, Matt, right back over to you, bud.
All right. So, as you know, everybody, what we're doing right now is talking about essentially the future of digital, or just the future of digital comics, and specifically how to market that. I was going to start with Cardell. Oh, he's fixing the light, so we'll give him just a second. Sorry to put you on the spot like that. All right, Cardell, I wanted to specifically ask you about some of the self-promoting you've done. How has your Patreon page kind of changed the way you're able to promote yourself and your book, Top 2?
Oh, yeah. Well, promotion is pretty difficult. I haven't really had an opportunity to go to any Comic Cons yet, which is what I've been planning on doing. Unfortunately, because of COVID, the latest one, there was supposed to be one this weekend, Amazing Comic Con, but it got canceled.
Yeah.
So until next year. So with that happening, it's pretty much mainly been word of mouth. But Patreon actually kind of helps a lot because it offers some type of incentive. So people who, in situations where life may be a little busy and they don't really find the time to go and check my information, me talking about my Patreon page, it kind of opens something inside of them, so they actually end up going to check it anyways. Surprisingly enough, I've actually gotten quite a bit of patrons in that way, but right now it's kind of slow because it's mainly word of mouth. And so, but I have a Comic-Con coming up in October. It's the Atlantis Festival here in Las Vegas. Hopefully that one will go through. It all depends on where we are then. But I do see Patreon helping out quite a bit. The more I bring up my Patreon. As a matter of fact, that's going to be one of the main things that I'm going to promote at my table at Comic-Con. So
okay.
But yeah.
All right. Yeah, with COVID, everything is just shut down. It's been crazy. So yeah. All right, Jared, you had a question?
Yeah, this one's for David Lilly. Your video series on Twitch has gained quite the following. How are you able to come up with your format and maintain such a large following?
I would say it's definitely not due to any expertise at Twitch. I am a boomer. I don't know what I'm doing there. It's just we needed to be streaming somewhere, and some of our other streaming platforms that we were on got shut down. Stream.me, that used to be fun. We used to draw whatever we wanted on there. So I think the following just comes from I've been building up my comic series Dreamkeepers over the last decade or so. And fortunately, I'm at the point where people kind of want to engage, and so they'll follow me around wherever I have to go. So it wasn't organically built on Twitch, and we're still playing a lot with the format. I have done very, very little investment into like our Twitch format at this point.
Okay. Go ahead, Matt.
So Jamie, this one's for you. Well, you have an amazing series with I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Zolik?
Zolik.
Yeah, Zolik released. And if I remember right, you're about to release one called Horizon Zero.
That is correct.
What was that?
I said that is correct.
Okay. How has the process of the digital books kind of saved you on print and publishing costs?
I could definitely say digital process has been really good on this due to the fact that obviously we're all going through this COVID-19 crap. But it's really been a hard pain to get these physicals out. But digital has really kind of kept the company going. I can definitely think that, for going on Amazon and, Barnes and Noble, really pushing in the sales and constantly keeping the motion going and whatnot. But once again, you got to have that drive. So I'm just going to keep pushing no matter what, no matter how hard it gets. So fans want it, you give it to them.
Right on.
Okay.
Jeremy, you have your own site, plus you sell on both Amazon and Comixology. You're very prolific on YouTube and as well as Instagram and Patreon. Does having a singular website dedicated to your book or yourself limit exposure? And why do you choose to diversify your exposure?
Well, I honestly feel that having a singular site or a singular destination is really a matter of both the creator's personal choice and taste and the amount of content they have. Because I've looked at some people that have multiple titles or multiple series, and they will create a launch site or a landing page for each individual series they have. At this point, I've just got my main comic Morningstar, plus I have a previously published self-contained graphic novel. But I think until I have like 3 or 4 different series, once I get beyond that, I might be interested in experimenting with having multiple actual websites for each brand, each story. But in terms of having all of my work across all of social media, I mean, there's only so many hours in a day that you can post content. But once you set up an image and a little piece of text for a Twitter post or an Instagram post, it's not that much more work to cut and paste and drop that into Facebook, drop that into Tumblr, drop that into Patreon. For me, the way I've kind of set it up is that I try to post to my Patreon 5 days a week, and all my Patreon posts are a week early from public. But out of the posts that I share just from my Patreon, I'll take 3 of those, and the following week, those 3 go out to public, all the other social media. And being on, I've got like 5 or 6 different platforms going, that's more of, I don't want people to have to hunt for me. I want to be where people that are looking for art and looking for comics, I just want to be where they are, where they're at. If I had the bandwidth to be on if I had the bandwidth to be on TikTok and every other random social media, I would. But that said, I mean, there's some people who they try a few different platforms, they don't get any love whatsoever, and then they stop using those platforms. And I see a lot of logic to that too. That said, I've been pretty consistent on posting on Pinterest, and I've been posting on Pinterest for, I gotta say, maybe like 6 or 7 years now with almost no engagement. And for some reason, in the past year, I've taken to doing work in progress GIFs of my work as I'm making them just every day. and I'm posting them as videos. And for some reason, I'm getting 100 views, 1,000 views on these where I was getting nothing before. So who knows why I start getting engagement all of a sudden? Someone who was solely focused on marketing to the exclusion of the creative process in terms of making art and drawing would probably drill down into those posts and find out, when did this start? What's bringing it to these people? Because I'm sure that there are some lessons to be learned, and I just don't have the bandwidth necessarily to dig deeper into that. But I think there's use in that. But a lot of times you don't know which opportunities are going to pop for you, and you don't know when they're going to pop for you. A platform you may get no love for years may just start, developing all down the line.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Huh. All right. So Dan, I was on Comic Vine the other day, and I noticed a little side thing on your book, Zen. It said it first got released in 1987. So you've actually been doing it for quite a while. How hard was it then versus now to find a publisher willing to take a chance on a new kind of untested book or talent or anything like that? And what were some of the major hurdles you faced?
Well, I had a partner who's Steve, who's the writer, who was also the financer of it, and he did all the business stuff, which just freed me up to do creative, which was fine. But back in 1987, there was a lot of independents popping into the scene, so it was pretty easy. You just had to have the money and contacts to print your book, and then you just sent a one-page solicitation to the distributors. They carried it or not. It was pretty easy. Marketing was not so easy. It was very expensive, and you had to disperse your ads all over the place. It's much easier or more accessible now with social media, like Jeremy's doing. Just you can do it yourself, but as Jeremy said, you're doing all that shit. You're not doing any creating either. So it's like it's a tough thing, but you have the tools now. So I think it's easier now. As far as getting publishers, back then it was a matter of, do you have traction? We had traction, so we had no problem getting publishers. I think nowadays you basically have to have your own following to get the interest of a publisher. So again, social media, you've got the tools, you've got the power, but you got to do it yourself. It's a lot more work, I think, now, but the world is your oyster now.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah,
awesome. Okay.
And trust me, I am no marketing genius. I am not a business success either. So
it's all in your name. Is that what the trick is, Dan?
I've just been around a long time and haven't fallen down yet. So
that's awesome. Okay, my question is for SK Malvo. I see all the time on Facebook doing interviews with groups like Indie Comics Rock and the Creators Corner. We even did an interview with you, which was awesome. Thank you. Together on Crypto Comic Spotlight. You've mastered social media, so it's time for a shout out. What social media groups or pages do you belong to, and how has that helped you?
Oh, wow. I'm like, there's almost too many to count, and I know I'm going to forget at least a few of them. But Comics Tribe is a big one for me because that one, it's pretty much like this kind of like mastermind where you're getting in touch with other creators, and it's almost like what we're doing right now. And what happens whenever you're doing that, you're getting really good feedback, as well as you're getting other people who are just as passionate about your project as you are. Because
your audio is starting to slow down, SK. Just give it a minute to buffer real quick. All right, now see if your audio is working. Your video paused, so your audio will probably work better now.
And I think that's really because and very strategic in how we marketed ourselves in. Oh, hello.
Hi.
Okay. Now
Okay.
you're there. Okay, so
So
now
you
you're gonna have to go back.
Full time, yeah.
You're gonna have to go back. The last thing we heard was Comic Tribe, which sounds awesome, man. That just was great. If we could start from Comic Tribe and continue forward, we'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Nope. Now your volume ain't working. Now you're muted. So we're having a little bit of technical difficulties here. No worries. I'm gonna pit SK. Just let's give your tech time to buffer. I'm gonna pitch back over to Matt. We'll move on to the next question, and then we will come back to you once your tech buffer's out. Matt.
Okay. This one is specifically for Joe. I actually got to first meet you when you and I did an interview, and once again, some technical difficulties. So by the time I was able to give the video to Fry to actually come up with the graphics and stuff, it didn't record half of it. But you know, I'm still such a huge fan of Starcross comics. Really, really great stuff. But what I'm kind of wondering was, what is it like to promote your book for the very first time at a convention?
Well, we've been publishing for over 20 years, and we have multiple creators. So, you know, if you're talking about a Starcross comic or my specific comic, you know, I think the enthusiasm is, you know, very similar because it's the first time, you know, somebody's getting to see your stuff being at a convention or being on Facebook link, or, you know, just somebody purchasing it on our website. But, you know, it's kind of like building a doghouse or something, you know, or a garage. You know, first it's a lot of work, and you keep, you know, waiting for its completion so you can get that rush of having it finished and it looks so nice. And you know, it's just the feeling is only matched by somebody buying the book and then them getting to share that feeling with you. So that's really the motivation, you know, to creating a comic in general for me.
Okay. All right. I love that. Jared, do you want to go back with SK Malvo? Let's see if we can get this question working again.
You want to try again?
Let's try again.
So we started. We left off at Comic Tribe.
What was the question? One more time.
Yeah.
Okay. So just want what media group, social media group pages do you belong to, and how has that helped you?
Indie comics creators is one. I know that. It doesn't even matter just as long as you are networking with other creators, because they're the only people who are going to be nearly as passionate about what you're doing as you are.
Okay.
Did that come through?
Yes.
All right.
Good. Okay.
Nice.
All right. So this one is actually for Chad. So you're kind of, I mean, let's face it, you're a comic legend with your work. I can't even talk. Work on Marvel, DC, IDW, and so on. You're probably most famous for your connection with Harley Quinn. You've had a lot of success promoting yourself and your new book with Gemma Young Temerity at conventions. Do you have any general tips that you can share for the new people first trying, you know, to promote themselves?
Find really smart people who are younger than you and tie your hitch to that wagon.
That's right. Gemma was at one point in time, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's really, you know, all my experiences has mostly been with the old way of doing things. Okay, Marvel DC, breaking in. When I broke in, it was I went to a convention. They did the portfolio review thing, and then I got the contact info, and it was a matter of following up. And so, that's how I got into comics. And I really, for the longest time, avoided social media, avoided anything online, and because I saw it as a distraction. I saw it as a waste of time. I would see people all the time that were, their whole lives were on social media, and some people do get on social media and just waste time. But if you use it purposefully, if you're on it to post your art and to make connections, then it can be a constructive thing. But I mean, in all honesty, I learned that from my students. I really did. And Jim, I'm sure we'll talk about Starbite and their Kickstarter. My students, a lot of them had no clue who I was, and Starbite was a legend before they even knew that they attended the university where I taught. So, social media is becoming the new hard currency. It's becoming the new, and like you said, Marvel DC now, the way they recruit, they're looking for ready-made artists that are basically already doing comics online already. That's how they recruit. They look for people that are basically self-motivated. They're out there doing it themselves, and then it's easy for them to come and say, "Hey, would you like to work on this book?" A lot of it is fan art. A lot of it's fan comics, and just they'll be like, "Well, let's make you official." And so there is definitely a shifting of how comics are working, and what's really interesting is to see what survives post COVID, because I think the traditional market's getting its teeth kicked in right now. So,
oh yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, but yeah, find smart kids that know more than you do.
We're looking at you, Gemma. Okay. My next question is for David again, actually. Real quick, David, you were already a comic book legend with your work, or I'm sorry, David, you and
really?
your wife are the founders. Yeah, I hate scripts, dude. I never use them. This is why.
Then don't.
You and your wife are the founders of Vivid Publishing. It's managed to become this amazing entity and even allowed you to make CouchCon possible. Along the way, you've picked up some really great titles such as Control Freak, The Wayward Astronomer, and Vampire Holidays, among others. What qualities do you look for in a team member, and how has this changed over the years in the industry?
I would say, I don't know about in the industry, because the industry is changing so much, it's hard to even tell what it is at this point. I feel like even the term publishing, before it would be like, oh, if you're with one of the big publishers, then you're published. But I think now a better metric is how many readers are actually excited for your book and how many of them are actually enjoying it. Because sometimes you'll get something that comes from, a legacy company, and there might not be much of a reader base for it, but it's published, whereas you might have something independent that's going the crowdfunding route that has an extremely active and numerous readership. And, that might not be like an officially published. So it's hard to talk about like what is the industry and what's not the industry, because we're in the middle of a massive shift. And I personally think that most of the creativity and originality is coming out of people that are not tethered to pre-existing IPs. And I think that the crowdfunding market is where most of that is happening. Granted, there's some growing pains. Can you remind me what the question was? Because I think I just wandered in my preamble.
Yeah, no problem. It was, what qualities do you look for in a team member when you're considering fan art and fan stories, written fan stories, sticking with the Dreamkeepers universe?
I would say the first thing that I really learned in terms of like selecting who we want to work with more closely, trial and error teaches you a lot, and it's very simple. Just pay attention to what people actually do. When people talk about what they want to do or what they will do, just I mean, be polite, but when you're making business decisions and, we only have so many resources, we can't just infinitely spread time and money around. So pay attention to what people are actually doing, what they have a history of doing, and hang your hat on that. You can't just listen to what people say because you're going to get burned a lot.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So Gemma, got this one for you. Okay. So I'm personally a huge fan of the Children of Aldair and now Temerity. I found an interview that you and Chad did a long time ago where you talk about how you have been kind of creating your own comics since junior high.
Yes.
So, I mean, you mainly focused on the kind of creator-owned side of the comic industry. So, for many that are new to the industry, all the way to the seasoned veterans, what does success or a successful comic mean to you? And what are the benchmarks or expectations that you set for yourself?
Success is going to mean something different for everyone. So, it really just depends on the individual. Some people are just happy that people are reading their work. Some people are just happy that, they're actually able to finish something. Like a lot of people start something, but they aren't able to finish. And one thing for me that has been very, eye-opening and just rewarding for me is, I do a lot of comics. Like I draw and I draw and I draw. And, hundreds of pages later, I get to look back and be like, I finished all of these pages. And the first time I really got that was when I ran my first Kickstarter and I got to hold my book in my hands.
Oh.
And it's like a substantial book. And every time I run a Kickstarter, it's like I get to add to that stack of like, I created this. Like now I've got 3 books. And
wow.
And like success is I'm able to do something that I love and make it a real thing. And then there's also the success of there's people reading my work. And then when I go to a convention, even if it's just like 1 or 2 people, they come up to me and they're like, I read Children of Elder and it's my favorite comic. And like, there's a lot of comics out there. There's just like so many comics. And for someone to say that to me, that mine means something to them, that's extremely rewarding. And that is successful. And then if you're able to tie in the financial success as well, that's just like, it slowly builds up in what success is and how it can grow and evolve with you as a creator. So first, like if you're going in, you're like, I'm going to make a ton of money and that's all you're going to do. And you're going into comics, like independent comics, you're just going to end up unhappy. Right? Okay. Like if you're just doing it for money, then there's plenty of other things that you can do to make money that will probably be a little bit more substantial or stable.
Agreed. Yeah.
So yes. So for me to be able to be like, okay, I created this thing. Now people are reading it and now people are buying it. And then hopefully someday in the future, my definition of success will be able to grow with that.
Okay. I like that. All
okay. Right. My question for Jeremy. You are now known for doing everything in your books from writing, artwork, and all the way down to the lettering. What are some of the various skills that you've had to pick up in order to compete in a comic book industry concerning both print and digital?
Wow. I mean, I still feel like I'm trying to pick up those skills. And most of those skills, I mean, when it comes to the self-publishing, fortunately, like in my day job, my background is in graphic design and product design. So a lot of the technical, just creating assets, whether it's creating logos, in terms of lettering a book, putting together PDFs, resizing images for marketing purposes, all that stuff. I mean, I've got that built into my entire work career. I'd say for me that the hardest part really is the time management, simply because I still struggle with the fact of being able to put out work as quickly as I want to. And when it comes to bringing other people on and distributing some of that workload, for me, it comes down to, I want to make sure that I have partners and collaborators I'm able to compensate them adequately. And right now, I don't necessarily have that in my budget, my workflow. So the doing most of the stuff by myself it's both grown out of that, but it's also grown out of the fact that I pretty much enjoy every phase of making comics. I enjoy penciling, I enjoy inking, I enjoy writing, I enjoy lettering. And to me, lettering is like it's another writing task. I'm surprised that more creators that are solely writers don't become letterers, because just in terms of interacting with the page once you're seeing the art, because my first pass is just me spewing out an outline. My second pass is me making my actual script. My third pass is when I actually letter my book, because I letter it first, so that when I go to actually draw pages, I don't have those mistakes of having a character on the wrong side of the panel where I need them to speak, and I can make a call on the page where I decide, oh, well, I need to lay out the page differently, or I may decide, because I'm the sole creator, I like this layout better, so I'm going to rewrite the dialogue to fit the art.
Oh.
And a lot of writers do come back and do a pass after they get the artwork back to revise the lettering. So there's a lot of ways to work that. But I think that getting on the marketing side, on the business side, definitely getting much more comfortable with Excel and Google Docs and Google Sheets, and the process of just tracking data, being able to look up, well, how did these particular prints or books perform at this show last year versus the next year? Do I have some stuff that I can look at and just change the data so I can look and see, oh, you know what? These things that I really, really care about haven't been selling well for 3 years straight. Maybe I should just drop them. And being able to, we all think with our hearts when we're creators. We're passionate. We know the stuff that we love. And you want to find that sweet spot between what you love and what your audience loves. You don't want to if you make stuff just for your audience, who knows, it might be selling, but you might feel dead inside. And if you make just what you want, you be out there screaming in the wind and on a rooftop, you're on a hilltop all by yourself and lonesome. But when you can cross the streams, unlike Ghostbusters, that's where the magic happens.
That whole scenario just reminded me of Chasing Amy, about the whole sellout conversation.
Yes. You know what? I would love to sell out. Give me the chance to sell out. Because you know what? The way I look at it is, selling out is making something that has enough appeal that allows you to take more risks. You do something that's wildly successful, I don't look at that as like, oh, well, now I'm locked into just doing this. I'm saying, all right, I did this. Now I have one template that I can repeat. And then for another project, I can do something where I'm like, I don't think this is going to sell at all. If I got another thing in the queue that will pay for this thing that's completely impractical. So you can take those passion swings, and maybe you'll find something where you'll hit lightning in a bottle. But if you sell out and you've got something that's really hitting it, you can, as opposed to really being forced to be stuck on, I can only do the thing that I think is going to sell. You want to, so yeah, I don't look at selling out as a bad thing at all.
Okay.
I too would also like to sell out.
Fry, you already sold out, Fry. You already sold out. Thank you very much. Now get back in your closet.
That's not very polite.
Get to work.
I will mute you so fast.
A brief way to think differently about selling out. I think if you are creating value, that's what's more important to focus on. If you're creating value and people are willing to give you money so that they can get the benefit of what you're creating, that's great. I think it's dangerous when you sell out in a way where you transfer the value you are creating to a larger entity that somehow degrades or destroys the value of what you're creating for your audience. So I would say selling out is kind of like a misleading term. I would look at it in terms of the value that you're creating and trying to protect that value for the people that appreciate it.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. So this one, once again, we're going back to you, Chad. Essentially, you kind of jump ship from the major comic publishers to kind of your own work with you and Gemma on Temerity. I mean, you're one of the few who've had the opportunity to work on both sides of the fence. When it comes to publishing a comic, what's the biggest difference between working for a major comic book publisher and going out on your own in the indie sector?
Well, when you work for a publisher, they do everything. They literally do everything. I mean, the only thing you got to do is draw your pretty pictures and put it in a email or a FedEx envelope and collect your paycheck. And when you're doing a creator-owned book, you're doing everything. And I say everything, and even now, I mean, honestly, like Gemma does with Temerity, does it probably way more than okay, but I mean, still, when it comes to the marketing, when it comes to, and I'm an artist. I love to just shut my door away from the world, and I want to be left alone. I am an introvert. So for me to like get up and tap dance goes way against my nature, and that's one of the things my students struggle with too. Because I tell them now, I'm like, look, you got to get on social media. You got to put yourself out there. You got to market yourself. And they're just, a lot of them are just like me. They're like, I just want to draw. That's all I do. I want to draw. And you know what? I'm like, I get it. I get it. But the days of like you being able to like take your portfolio to an art director, and that's how you get in, those days are gone. The world is a changing place, and it's changing so fast that it's hard to keep up. And so with creator owned though, there's a lot that you got to do. And the other thing you got to do is you got to put the money into it too.
Mm-hmm.
Like DC, I didn't have to worry about who was printing the books or who was shipping them or who was distributing them. Like all that was taken care of by like other people. But all of a sudden, when you're doing your own book, it's like, holy crap. And you just get hit from 1,000 different directions. And there's a steep learning curve to it. So I mean, hats off to the guys at Image. My hell, I got into comics right when Image happened, and they made it look easy. And I look back, I'm like, man, those guys deserve every penny they got because, man, just breaking away and going it on your own, it's a million. If you thought breaking into Marvel and DC was hard, try self-publishing. It's a million times hard.
Now, just a quick show of hands. How many on this panel have self-published? Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like that's cheating, man. We're crypto comics.
Yeah, I know. That was a great question, right? I mean, that was a great. I thought that was awesome.
Bro.
So I got a question for Amy with Gypsy Leaf Art. Your work is remarkable. You've been painting for such a long time. Even before the creation of the crypto comics marketplace, you put out your own children's book. Now you are teaching the next generation. What's the best advice you were ever given that you were able to pass on? And who was it from?
Okay, so I actually kind of oddly struggled with this question. And I discussed it with my husband, and he thought the best answer that I came up with was, I think the best piece of advice I was given was just keep swimming by the famous Dory.
Yes, I was thinking, yes.
And honestly, I mean, okay, it wasn't exactly that advice, because Nemo came out in like what 2003 or 4 or something like that. So, but along those lines of you just got to keep going. You just have to just keep going. You got to put the next one foot in front of the other. No one else is going to do it for you. So the only way you're going to figure out anything and find out if you're good at anything or if you like it or don't like it is to just keep going and to just try it. And just do what the little blue fish does and just keep swimming. I know I've told myself that a lot just to get through anything, whether it's artwork or anything in life. So I think that, stupidly enough, is what my best advice is.
I love that. You know, some of the best advice from little blue creatures in cartoons. So for me, it was the Smurfs. Now it's Dory. So
What advice did you get from the Smurfs?
Smurf it.
Oh, I got you.
I got all my advice from heavy metal.
Okay.
And I think that should count.
Once again, Joe, I got another question for you. I mean, you got some with Starcross Comics, some just amazing books. The Hybrids, Frontera, Host, Killer of Kings. You also got some pretty funny ones in there, like Tommy and the Tapeworms and Corn Dog.
Corn Dog.
Oh, such a great one. When you start a new book or you're taking on a new book as a publisher, what are some of the biggest fears that you have, and how are you able to get over that?
When taking on a book, or
yeah,
when creating one, or bringing in a new creator.
I would like to hear kind of both perspectives. So.
Well, at Starcross, I mean, the people we have that we're working with, we kind of, we get a lot of submissions, and we turn down a lot of submissions, and it's not based off quality. It's a lot of times it's in talking with the creator. In Starcross, we try to have everybody interested in working together, in promoting each other, in possibly doing crossovers, just the mentality of how they want to run their book within the company. And whether their ego is really big, or whether they kind of want you to do everything and they're just going to collect the paycheck, just like how Chad mentioned. And we kind of try to have a really unique group of people that we've vetted, that kind of not only have a great product, but they have a good disposition, like they want to work together. They want to, they're nice, they're not volatile. So it saves a lot, because I see other people try to start companies, and they just kind of, if they just faintly like the book, they just bring it in, and they know nothing about the person, nothing about their history, nothing about their personality. And then eventually it just kind of starts unraveling, so that's kind of what we go for at Starcross. We have a great group of people that we choose to work with. And then the second question was what comes together when I'm creating a book, because my titles are among all the other titles in Starcross, but it's really hard because I'm also the founder of the company, so I'm out there promoting everyone's books and my own. But you would think not, but it's very equally. I equally promote my stuff and everyone else's, because I consider their books, just as important as my own, and I talk about them as in that way also. But when I'm working on a book, I mean, my scripts come pretty fast. That's probably the fastest thing I do. And I send it to my editor, check over, and then I'll just start. I'll have already seen the movie in my mind of story. So it's like I've already pre-watched it in my mind for an audience of one. So it's almost like, they say, like they're chiseling out the angel in the stone, revealing, I'm kind of revealing the story that I've already seen in my head, and I'm almost like secondhand writing it because I've already seen it. So writing the script, I do everything on computer now. So drawing it out, and I do my own coloring. I do my own lettering. I'll letter and color for other people's books too if they need it. And then the marketing is the big beast that takes a lot of work. And just managing everybody's stuff. And a lot of times the other guys in the studio will help me so I don't have a nervous breakdown. They'll manage different Kickstarters or different people's projects. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, because I'm usually working on 5, 2 from me and 3 from other creators all at once. So someone will say, hey, can you put the dressing on my book? Can you, I need the barcode for my book, and is my Kickstarter ready? And what's the date for this again? And did the printer get the files? And it's like I don't forget, but it's like so many people I have to keep track of, and so many projects, and my own. So
Yeah,
it's
who else can relate with Joe in relation to multiple things like nailing you all at once, like Kickstarters? I knew it was gonna be Gemma.
Yeah, you knew that when you decided to jump into comics that you actually had to become a juggler, huh? With
Oh, dude, I had no
also-
clue.
Yeah.
I had no clue. Like I am so inspired by all of you guys because of just how much you guys put into making it so people can read your comics. It's incredible. You guys all deserve a standing ovation. Chad.
Yeah, one of the things I tell my students all the time is like, go minor in business. Go minor in business, go minor in marketing, because that's the one thing, you know, that they're there and they're learning about illustration. And I'm like, and then they'll call me like 6 months after graduation, like, I haven't been paid by this guy. I'm like, have you sent them an invoice? And they're like, what's an invoice? And I'm like, I'm not kidding. Hand to God.
Wow.
Multiple. So yeah. Anyway, that's it. Yeah.
Well, you know, they talk about there's the three. There's the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician. And sometimes you can be both, but generally you're never all three. And so if you are a technician, it's very, very, very hard to think of the things like sending an invoice, you know, because you're so concerned about nailing down the work. So yeah, that's incredible. That is great advice. That is great advice. My next question is for Dan. You're most known for Zen Intergalactic Ninja. So awesome. Such a great name. No one can deny the entertainment value inherent in your books. Have you ever created a comic with a particular cause in mind?
I would say not so much a cause, just you should always write and do what you know and what you feel and what you experience. Like, you know, the book that you guys have on your site now is actually being previewed on your site exclusively. You're seeing the whole creative process unfold.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and that's a cool thing about your platform. I think I love that. But that story, believe it or not, you can't tell from the first read and from first look or anything, but it's about my experiences in corporate America. So it's a corporate sci-fi and the absurdity of corporations, and that's really what that book is about. So it's a very intimate book. So as far as cause goes, that's kind of what I guess that addresses that. I'm not really sure. I know that, you know, we did do a Zen book that was a response to 9/11, and I kind of regret that in a way, because it was kind of, I don't think people believed it was a sincere response, but it was like the only response that I was capable of at the time, you know. So we did that, but a lot of people probably perceived it as a marketing move, which is sad to be perceived that way.
Yeah.
But it was basically a response to my feelings of what just happened. I didn't know any other way to process it, you know. And you know, that's what I do. I tell stories, I write books, I draw pictures. It's all I could do.
That's your outlet.
Yeah. So I mean, that was kind of a cause-based response. I don't really think you want to do that kind of thing necessarily. It should all be really subliminal. Just be honest, really. That's what I tell people. It's like, if you're not honest, if you hate horror and you're doing horror stories, you're not being honest, you know. So you just do what you love, and the quality will show. It'll show. The sincerity, the quality, all that, it'll show. So stay true to yourself, basically.
Well, I have a little bit of a question in relation to that now that I have better understanding of Reed, because Reed's awesome. I love the beginning, how Reed goes. I love the art in Reed. So But in Enri, I get the feeling that corporate America sucks. Is that by chance even close to what you might be going for with that?
Oh yeah.
Right on. Okay, I nailed it, guys. I nailed it.
Yeah, no,
Right.
re is the word. The word re is the corporation. I'm going to give you inside scoop here because I didn't really want to reveal this until like the third story.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert, everybody!
Spoiler alert. So re is a corporation. It's a recycling corporation. They started off, nice company. We recycle everything. But actually what they're doing is they're exploiting planets. They don't give a shit about who's on it or what. It's all about profit. And you're going to meet CEOs, quality control people, AEOs, BEOs. There's going to be all kinds of crazy EEOs, and it's just, and unfortunately, I work for a corporation. So a lot of the people I work with are going to find themselves in these books. But think of a I don't know how many of you guys work in a corporation or have been in that environment. A few of you, yeah. So it's kind of like rah, we're awesome and all this stuff, and there's a lot of hype, and there's a lot of people that don't need to be there. There's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, if you will. And
crooks in the kitchen, you mean?
Yeah,
crooks in the kitchen.
It's kind of a story about the absurdity of all that, and but you're going to see like a quality control. People are militarized and stuff like that. So it's going to get pretty wild and crazy as it progresses, as the story moves along.
I'm excited. Chad, I saw that you had your hand up.
I was going to tell to do the government next.
Yes.
Nice.
Corporations are the government.
Oh, nicely done. Nicely.
America, baby.
Yeah. Well, no, also in China, I heard.
You ever been to China?
No, I saw it on like some YouTube thing. The internet doesn't lie, Matt.
Oh,
the internet doesn't lie.
Lincoln said that in 1926, I believe. The internet can't lie. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm safe. And I never research anything. I just say what I see.
Oh, I know. We talk about stuff all the time. Okay. So, Amy, this one is for you. So I'm kind of wondering, like, how your work has motivated others, like specifically in the classroom. You teach a lot of younger students, where like Chad is, the college age. You're in the elementary schools. Kind of how has your work motivated you? And can you give us an example of when you were able to showcase your work in the classroom?
I know where you're getting at. Yeah. So my stuff is exclusively on crypto comics, and I have written some kids books, and crypto comics has the awesome feature where you can add sound to every page. So I have narrated all of my books, and I work with 3rd to 5th graders in special ed, and I've been able to pull up crypto comics on our giant smart TV that we have in our room and throw on my books and have have the kids be able to click through it, but have it read to them because they're not able to read these books. Have it be able to read to them, and they love it. They were all excited. They're like, Miss Amy, is that you? Is that you reading? And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And they thought that was just absolutely so cool that they're like, hey, I know someone who's on the internet and who can read. But I've also seen it where just, outside of the classroom, but still with kids, I've given my work to my prints and stuff to people, and I've gotten messages back from their parents of them drawing Spaceman Bob and saying that they've inspired them to pull out their colored pencils and stuff and get to work, which is what you always want. You want to pass on that creativity. You don't need to bottle it up and keep it inside. You need to spread it around and let everyone get some of that little magic dust and want to be creative themselves. So it was really cool that I was able to put my books in the system in crypto comics and let my kids use it, and they loved it. And the fact that, yeah, these kids, they can, they can't really read past preschool age, but they could still sit there and enjoy. Right now it's my kids' books, but in the future it'll be, anyone's comic books and stuff when they're narrated, and they can be on the system and have these kids get exposed to something that they wouldn't be exposed to. So, yeah.
I love the shout out to the reader. But one of the things I was kind of more wondering about was the fact that kids, they don't pull any punches. I mean, anything a kid thinks, it's coming out of their mouth.
That hurts.
Oh, sometimes, yeah, I'm like, oh no. What kind of reaction did you get from the kids? Like, they were actually like, oh, you did the art and the writing. What?
Yeah, they thought that was the coolest thing ever. That they're like, you can do both. You don't have to just write a book or just draw a book. You can do both. I'm like, yeah, there's no limits, nothing. Yeah, just sit down and do it and be creative. I know you guys all got stories in your heads. So they thought that was really cool. We do have some physical copies of my books in our classroom, but I didn't have some physical copies at first. And so I was like, oh, quickly pull up crypto comics, and they were able to see the books and see my name and see my art. And so they got really, really excited. And so it's always great when your students get excited. It helps get you excited. Kind of like when Jared gets excited, it helps everyone get excited. He's muted.
I must have muted myself. Oh, Fry did it. I can see his smirk.
Love it.
What? When?
Come on, Hake.
No.
So I'm gonna go with just 1 second. I lost my place, guys. I apologize. I'm gonna go with TCT, the Core Team Comics. And he showed me a fan. That was awesome. I've talked to quite a few fans that have some odd notions about web comics and digital versions of comics. What do you think is the biggest misconception people have about digital comics?
That actual physical, type of thing. Like, oh, I get a digital comic. It's that feeling like, oh, I don't have anything in my hands. Like a physical book or something like that. It's like you want something, but it's just also that drive. You got such a fine line between so many different people out there who just want, like, yeah, I just want to go online and read something. It's cool. And that's kind of like the day and age of what we're pushing out towards. We don't really have much of a choice. It's just the way I see it. When you're a comic book company or writer or anything else, it doesn't matter. You go down that path. You're pushing yourself down multiple paths, and if you want to hit every attribute, yeah, you got to hit the physical, the digital. It doesn't matter. And that's basically how I kind of see that. It's like, I got another book coming up. I gotta do both. I have no choice. I have a whole bunch of books coming up. I gotta do them all. So that's kind of a weird way to say it, but yeah.
What do you find to be more successful, the physical or the digital? I guess, and has that changed recently?
Yeah, it's changed recently a lot, because originally I was selling more physical than anything. Ever since COVID hit, my digital value went up and up and up. And now it's like about as equal as the physical ones were. It's crazy how that really changed everything. It's like, it just goes to show that that's the day and age that we're actually living in. So it's like, I decided originally when I was making my comic books, I would make the physical copies all different than the digital ones. And I would alternate the storylines a little bit, put less content in the digital ones, make them cheaper. And I put something in a physical copy, I make it worth, something, I bought this, I got more content than the digital one, it's better. In crypto comics, I just said, I'm going to do the all-star thing and just put every single thing possible in that thing and just give it all out. That's pretty much what I did.
That was awesome. Thank you. That was
like,
great.
I did it with the novels too. I actually put, like, all my novels are actually black and white, but I actually put colored versions. I went back there, redid the drawings, colored them up. But yeah, it's like it's definitely a mind blower out there. It's pretty awesome though.
Okay. So
Yeah.
this question is for Cardell. So kind of with the advancements in technology, I personally went from paper to like Wacom to an iPad tablet. Does anyone that you know typically still use the original process of the pencils, inks, and then coloring? Or I guess, like, what is your process, and what do you know of the process of people around you?
I've never used the traditional method. For me, that takes too much time. When I first started working on my comic book, and it was 2016, I had met my ex and she had children, so I pretty much had a family to look after. I had a full-time job, so I really didn't have the time to do all the traditional paper and then scanning and then coloring, and I didn't have time to do all of that. And I originally started working on my MacBook, and I had a Wacom tablet.
Mm-hmm.
And my cousin had a Surface Pro, and one time we was going on a road trip to Mackinac Island, and he was just sitting there in the car, just drawing on his Microsoft Surface Pro, and I got jealous. So
I get jealous every time they pop out their tech in front of me, dude.
Yeah, because it's like with a Mac and a Wacom, I can't do that. I have to sit at a desk and use that. And so I ended up getting me a Surface Pro, and I've been working with digital ever since. I've worked with what is it? I don't even use it anymore, so I can't remember it. And it's very popular. What is it? Start with a P. I can't remember the name of it, but it's the original one that everyone uses.
Procreate.
It's darn it. I might have it. No, I don't have it on here. I can't remember it now.
If you're using the
pencil,
they have a few programs. They got Illustrator.
Photoshop.
Yes, Photoshop. That's the big one. That's the one I was learning how to use when I was in college. But I've never been a huge fan of Photoshop. I didn't really like it too much. I still had beginner school even after I still had beginner status. I didn't even get to intermediate when I got out of college because I wasn't really interested in that program. But I found a program called Manga Studio. I've been using that program ever since. That's my favorite. It pretty much does everything I need to do. I'm learning more with that the more I work on my comic book series. It makes everything much easier, much more flawless. I inspired my cousin, and he's pretty much the same as me. He uses digital as well. Like I said, he had his Surface Pro. And I can't remember what program he said he uses, but he couldn't. The Manga Studio is a little too complicated for him, so he uses another program to work on his comic book series. But for me, it's pretty much digital all the way. I can get the work done faster. I can get it transitioned into PDF faster. So yeah.
Okay. Actually, I would like to get everybody's opinion on this. Like, what stuff do you use, and how does it, different? Are you more traditional? Do you have a program?
Gemma.
I use Pencil Side. Personally, that's one of my personal favorites. I think it actually runs really good. It's a really good program that allows me to do everything. That and campaign.
Gemma.
So yeah, I use Manga Studio 2. It's been basically repackaged as Clip Studio Paint. So that's what most people call it these days. Manga Studio's old name. But anyways, I do a mix of traditional and digital. So I used to do as much traditional as possible, like my pencils and my storyboards and things like that. And then I got babies, and then, you know, inking with an open inkwell with children running around just wasn't really an option. So I've kind of moved more traditional since then.
Dan.
Yeah, the oldest guy in the room has used everything, every method known to comic book art. But like the last Zen book I went back to pen and pencil, sketched it out, pen and ink. I love pen and ink. And then I scanned it and I did all the toning and lettering and put the book together digitally. And then the last graphic novel I did is completely vector. So the first book I did was freaking airbrush. I just love to experiment, and I think that's what makes it fun. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Any tool that I get my hands on. Have fun.
And then Joe.
Yeah, I use a Clip Studio Paint as well, but I'll alternate. Just Photoshop will have a lot of, you know, they both have certain items that the other one doesn't. So sometimes I'll flip back and forth. I've been trained in Photoshop. I've been using it since its conception for my old job. So I'm kind of used to that. But now I'm always learning new things in Clip Studio Paint. But it has everything: the word bubbles, it has speed lines, it has, you know, it's a lot more geared for comics. You know, Photoshop never was, you know, created for comics, but Clip was. And yeah, we sometimes still call it manga. It's an easier name to remember than the Clip Studio Paint name. It's kind of clunky, but I use my ThinkPad, my Lenovo Yoga not tablet, it's a laptop, and you can flip it over and then just draw right on the screen. That took me a little time. I moved from using paper to using the mouse to using the you know, a pad that was separate from your screen, and now drawing right on the screen is much easier. That's what I use.
Malvo.
Yeah, I don't illustrate any of my comics. So what I'm using is Scrivener, and that's oh my gosh, it was such a game changer, because one of the things that was always so difficult, let's put it that way, difficult, was formatting the scripts so that it looks like, you know, so it's clear what's going on and it's clear to your illustrator. But yeah, that's me.
Chad.
Traditionally, I like to use traditional materials, and ironically, right now, good paper is really, really, really hard to find. It used to be Strathmore Series 500. It was like the no-brainer. You go and you buy that, and everything was fine. And then right around, I think 2012, they got bought out by Canson, and the paper quality is just, it's almost like drawing on a wet paper sack. And but anyway, traditional is fine. One of the reasons why I still do traditional is people pay more for traditional artwork than they do digital artwork, but I do see that changing. I think that's because a lot of the people that are buying artwork right now are older. They have jobs that, you know, they're a little bit more established. But as I see the younger generation coming up, they are perfectly content with a digital commission. So I think it'll just take time. And I think eventually digital will replace. And think about it. I look at my house. I got a ton of stuff.
There goes our rating, Chad.
Right.
Thanks so much. There goes our rating. Oh my gosh, we were holding so good.
But my kids, it's like they got their phone, they got their tablet. That's it. That's it. They don't have a ton of crap. So anyway.
Okay, now we're going to move to a part of the call that's going to be a little bit different, and we weren't able to cover this before the call started. However, what I would like to do is open it up to where panelists.
Okay, clearly Jared's having some technical difficulties. Your audio's not working, Jared. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to have everybody unmute themselves. Get crazy.
Everybody,
All
don't
right.
mute anything. Okay? Nobody mute anything. Everybody should. We're just going to keep the mutes from muting because if we mute anymore, we'll probably turn off the sound again.
Uh-oh.
We're gonna break the
Yeah.
internet.
We broke it
Yeah.
already, girl.
But,
So
What a shame.
I was saying earlier that what I wanted to do was that I wanted to kind of open up the field now so that y'all can start asking each other questions.
I like that.
There's some exceptional talent on this. Now be careful because we're gonna have a lot of microphones going on at the same time. I'm not sure how this is gonna work. We may have to mute it every now and again, just to make it work right. But I want to open up the field so that you guys can start asking each other questions because there's some exceptional talent on this call, and there's no reason why me and Matt should get in the way of real awesome people talking. No offense, Matt. Go for it, Gemma.
Sorry, I was muted.
Oh, you were freaking me out, girl.
Sorry.
I was
yes.
like, oh no, it doesn't work.
Yes, so I actually have some comments or something to add to kind of what we were talking about earlier with Amy. When one piece of advice she got from someone was to just keep swimming, and I feel like one of the best pieces of advice I had gotten too from one of my professors is along that lines is the most successful artists and comic book creators, or just creators in general, are the people who do not give up, who are just simply persistent, because art is a long game. Like, it takes a long time to build up that talent as well as that audience. And it's all about just not giving up and keeping on going. And the people who have found the most success are simply the people who have not given up. And so just know when you get into art, it takes a while. And you just have to be patient with that. And then another thing with marketing is just putting your stuff where people can find it. That's the biggest thing is like, you want people to find it. Or if you want new readers, you have to put it where people can find it. And that's just multiple platforms, Instagram, social media, going to events, talking to people, and building that audience slowly. And when you build that audience, it will also go into gaining more readers and things like that. And you never know which platform is going to take off. So like I post to like 5 or 6 different platforms, my comics, and it just depends. You never know which one is going to be the one that hits, because it won't hit all of them. Like, you won't become popular on every single platform you're on. It'll probably just be 1 or maybe 2. And when that hits, then you just keep growing that audience there, and you see if you can pull them over into like Instagram or your email list and things like that. But that's my advice.
That's great advice. Does anybody else have advice or anything to add to what Gemma has spoken about? 'Cause I want to go ahead, Cardell.
I know personally for me, doing this comic book has always been my dream. So it's like at this present moment, I mean, I would like to be able to get to the point where I deal with the traders and I can just like live off the but at the present moment, for me, it's all about the creation. I've already decided I'm not going to stop. I like doing it too much. One thing that I found is that, and this is pretty awesome to me, with every single issue I finish, I get more patrons with every single one. The latest one, issue number 6, I'm working on right now. I started to wonder, am I going to get anybody for this one? Then I got Matt. Then I got another guy from work who just became a patron out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting that at all, but it was awesome. It was really awesome to me. So, the more I work on it, the more people become interested, the more patrons I get, the higher that income on Patreon goes. And I'm pretty confident that when I actually start to be able to go to Comic Cons, I'll start to see a lot more action. But I mean, it's slow now, but I'm enjoying the ride and I'm getting people. So
Well, hold up, Jared. Hold up. Dan, you had something to say, right?
Oh, I always got something to say.
Oh, good.
We love to hear from you.
For me at this point of my life, I know that when I was a young man in 1987, starting off a comic book, and I was totally wanting to sell out as fast and as big as I could. I had all these ideas of what I wanted to do, and they were, I was in my 20s, and it was all about stuff, right? Now I really don't even care about that stuff. To me, what I'm doing, I don't know how to make movies, but I can do this, and I got stories to tell. And for me, at this point in my life, it's kind of all about leaving a legacy, and that's really all that matters, and that's what drives me. And I love, we're artists. We got egos. Don't deny it. We want love. We want to be loved. We just want people to respond to what we're doing. And, that social media does that for you. It definitely gets you, keeps you motivated, keeps you going. Because, we're all humans, we're all alive, and we're all doing this to share with what we got in our heads with everybody. And, it's kind of like, it sounds corny, but we're in it for love, really. We love what we're doing. And that's, I think everybody here can say that.
I totally agree.
Oh, yeah.
I totally agree. Go ahead, Chad.
Well, the cool thing about Temerity is Gemma and I started it because we wanted to go back to junior high. I mean, that's when I started drawing comics. I used to take copy paper and draw on the copy paper and fold it together and staple it down the middle, And my friends and I, we made comics in our spare time. That's what we did. We'd go to each other's houses, we'd watch movies, we'd draw comics and play role-playing games. And so
D&D.
Yeah, and with Temerity, that's how it basically started. We're like, well, we're friends, we both love comics, let's make a comic. And so I do think you have to have a love for the medium, and hopefully the money comes with it. The love shows through. But no, if someone came to me and said, hey, I'll give you a couple million for Temerity and you don't ever have to work again, I'd be like, cash my check.
Yeah, but you'd still make comics, even with that $2 million.
I would draw something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun to make comics with your friends.
Yeah.
So one thing I was kind of wondering about, kind of a topic for you guys. A lot of you have had a lot of really successful Kickstarters. I was kind of hoping you guys would be able to give some advice on how to, kind of set one up and what goals you should have, and just kind of give us an insight into the realm of Kickstarter and Indiegogo or whatever.
Well, actually, and on that point, I want to know the difference between Kickstarter and Indiegogo, because I've heard that Kickstarter, you don't get your money if you don't reach your goal, and Indiegogo, you do get your money if you don't reach your goal. But then I heard that may not be true. So I'm kind of interested to know the kind of differences between the two platforms. Don't all start at once, but anybody can who has a, oh, Gemma. Yeah, I know. Gemma, come on, Gemma.
Okay. So the biggest difference between Kickstarter and Indiegogo is basically that. So Kickstarter, you have a funding goal, and basically what you're saying to people is, if we make this amount, then we'll be able to make the product and you'll get your reward. Okay. So there is a little bit more trust there, I guess, in that if you donate money to this person, you're only paying if they meet their goal, which means if they meet their goal, then they can afford to make this book. Whereas Indiegogo, you can set your goal, but if you don't make your goal, you still end up paying the creator that money. But if the creator needs $10,000 to make the book real, but they only get $500, where does that money go? So as a backer, there's always that question there, like, if you don't hit your goal, but I'm giving you money, will I still get something? And a lot of people who go to Indiegogo, they usually have their own money that they can front to create that project, but you just have to be careful. There are different audiences between the two platforms as well. I mostly just stick to Kickstarter because that's the platform I know how to run and has worked for me. And like, if one of my projects fails to meet the goal, then I can't afford to produce the product, which means I can't fulfill. And so I don't want to risk that.
So could you be, so you could technically be at a loss with Indiegogo if you don't reach your goal, because you still have to deliver to everyone who put in, who funded you. Basically,
Yes.
you got to deliver.
I believe so. That's, unless Indiegogo has changed how that works in the last year, I believe that's the case. So you just have to be careful.
So how many people on the panel, and Gemma is going to raise her hand on this, but how many people on the panel have done Kickstarters or Indiegogos? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. How many people have had successful Indiegogos or Kickstarters? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right. And was it worth the time you guys had to put into it?
Yes, I would say so.
Yes, it is. But at the same time, you do need to be realistic about the costs up front. You really do. I mean, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, so-and-so, they made all this money on their Kickstarter campaign. They must be rolling in dough. It's like, if you sell $250,000 worth of comic books, half of that's probably going to go into printing and shipping. Okay, so you still have to be realistic about it.
Wow.
There have been cases where there have been $1 million Kickstarters that end up bankrupting themselves because they didn't allocate their money correctly. So I think there was a gaming Kickstarter that breached over $1 million, and they promised all these stretch goals. They're like, that was their first Kickstarter. They got really, really excited. They were making $1 million, and they promised their backers, thousands of backers, all of this extra stuff into their rewards. And it ended up bankrupting them because that $1 million did not cover the cost of those promises. And the biggest problem that Kickstarters or campaigns have is properly calculating how much everything will cost. Seeing Kickstarters where people like, oh, I think $10,000 is enough, but they don't have a manufacturer set up. They literally have not gotten quotes on how much it will cost to print a book or to make a pin or to create a board game. And then there's also the other ones like, oh no, I forgot to charge shipping. And suddenly you have 100 people overseas who have bought your product because there was no shipping. And they're like, oh, it's going to cost me $50 a person to send this book to them. And they did not account for that. So you have to be super careful with your money. And then also just like build yourself a buffer. I think it's going to cost me $10,000. Well, my funding goal is $11,000, just in case.
Okay. Jeremy, you have to add to it?
Well, not so much add to it. I have a question for those who have run Kickstarter campaigns. How many of you have run campaigns where the art and writing, the actual creative part of the project, was not done yet when you launched the campaign?
right there, if the art's not done, be highly skeptical. That is that is the kiss of death right there. If the art is not done for the book and they're asking for your money, at that point, in my opinion, it's almost a scam, and you really should be careful.
Okay.
I think there was one campaign I did. I think it was maybe Temerity. We launched it and we had 1 page left that we had to do. But that was like
I see
the
how
only
it is.
thing.
Like I said, scam. Like I said, a scam.
It was like, Chad, are you going to finish? Because you better finish. I'm going to come over there.
David.
But
I was going to add one cautionary note on the Kickstarter horror story list. In addition to shipping, if you have never shipped overseas before, it's going to cost a lot more than you think. Also, get concrete quotes before you price out your Kickstarter, and even make sure you get quotes in the right time frame, because we produced a tabletop game based on our book series. And between the time we got the quote to the time the game came out, because of production delays, some of the components in the board game changed by 600% in terms of their cost. So you want to try to make sure that you get your concrete quotes as close to production and launch time as you possibly can.
Okay.
which is why you want everything done before you launch.
All
Because
right.
like as soon as you get that money, you want to be in production, right? So like the more accurate your quotes are going to be, because you're going to be ready to go into production as soon as possible. Because the longer you wait between getting your initial quote and actually going into manufacturing, you're going to get significant difference there.
Okay.
And then when you do your Kickstarter and the money comes in, take some money and put it away and save it for the next Kickstarter. And then that way when your campaign's over, your books are already being printed, they're already being shipped to you, and you're able to get that product in people's hands as quickly as possible. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that happens is people get that money and they just absolutely lose their minds. And then the reality hits. So yeah,
Wow.
you gotta be careful.
Yeah. So I've helped run Chad's campaign, and I'm helping run Starbright's campaign. They haven't finished yet, but I already have the proofs right here, and they will be ready to print before the campaign even ends. And we might actually even start printing before the campaign ends, simply so we can get people the rewards as quickly as possible. And another thing with Kickstarters, if you're going to be doing a lot of them, you want to be able to fulfill as quickly as possible so you can run your next campaign.
Okay. So I would like to actually, I always felt that kind of failure is about the best teacher you can have. Now, I know some people on this panel said that they had a Kickstarter that didn't actually succeed. What was it that you actually kind of learned from everything?
I think that's Malvo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was me. Yeah, oh man, I never had a failed Kickstarter. What are you talking about?
I'm sorry.
No, it is.
I misspoke.
No. I definitely have. That's but the thing of it is though, is that there's always something to be learned from making a mistake as opposed to doing something successfully. In that you are learning each time you go out, and every time you fall on your face, it's like, oh, okay. And some things that didn't occur to me the very first time were like the very first issue was that you probably need to have the thing completely done. I just had the script at that point, and I was working with my illustrator, and I did not comprehend the fact that, oh, wait, you need to have a final finished product to have something to put in somebody's hand in order to build that kind of trust and that kind of faith. And I did not understand that. And it's every single time that, every little failure, it leads to a greater success overall.
Okay. I like that. Did you guys have any more questions for each other? Like, let's keep this going. I like this. Yeah, Jeremy.
Oh, sorry, Jeremy, go ahead.
Another Kickstarter question. Warehousing your products once your Kickstarter is fulfilled. Is it just a matter of you just got a garage full of books? Is it just a matter of trying to keep it so that at the end of your campaign, you've got your fulfillment plus maybe just enough for that convention season, maybe just like 200 copies. Because for most people that I've talked to, the real profit is in having your campaign pay for your print run for the next couple of years of the convention season. Maybe not several years, but at least 1 or 2 years, where that's all product that's paid for. So any shows you do, any promotions you do on your website, any other way, any sales that you make, that's pure profit. So how do you deal with your overprint?
So the inventory, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we've run through a few different models of that. I know we printed off as many extras as we could when we started, which it might be smarter to keep, maybe only a couple hundred extra, so you don't have tons of storage. But I was like, oh, I'm going to be selling these for the next few years. I'm gonna get them while the price rates are low. So we had like 1,000 pounds of books in our 3rd floor apartment, and I was like, I'm going to space these out so that they're in different rooms and we don't collapse the building. And of course, when we were away out of town at a wedding, that's when the building burned to the ground. So lost a lot of inventory, and also learned, maybe you should consider warehousing in a few different places, not having that much excess. And if you do have excess, try to keep it in the original packaging. Don't open those boxes unless it's time to actually start selling them, because if you're keeping it like in a garage or a basement, moisture can come into play too, and that'll sneak up on you real slow.
Okay.
Go ahead, Gemma.
I have an unfinished basement, and I have a tower that my kids play on that is several thousands of books.
I was going to say, just storm in Gemma's basement.
Yeah. So we have a castle tower made out of boxes of books, and so we do overprint so that way we can sell in the future, and keep that profit, because when you're printing books in particular, if you're doing offset printing, the more you print, the cheaper it is per unit. So you want to keep those costs down per unit and hopefully sell those in the future. If not, you can just always rent a storage shed.
Yeah. But sometimes those storage sheds aren't climate controlled and things like that. You have to pay extra for little details like that. And just hearing what you're saying in relation to the cardboard boxes that David was saying, that would be risque too.
Oh.
Yeah, ideally you want to have, like, when we got the books shipped, our printer had them in a cardboard box, and then inside of that was like wax paper, and then inside of that was like bubble wrap. So if it's properly packaged, there's going to be some layers of protection that should keep it pristine for years.
Yeah, most of our hardcover books come shrink wrapped automatically, so that's not really so much of a worry.
Oh, that's nice. Okay.
I just bought a
Yeah, he does free storage. Make that 4 copies so I can also use my free storage for you guys.
I just bought a new house, and I had my comics in the basement, and literally the first week of moving in, the basement flooded.
Oh!
So I lost about like 3,000 books, but they weren't Star-Crossed books. They were like Marvel and DC, which is just as sad, but they weren't my products. My products were in my office. So, you got to watch out for basements. I've learned that now.
Ouch. Okay. What's next on the horizon, Matt?
It's up to you. You kind of jumped script there on, so.
Woohoo! We're off script, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Yeah. So now that we're off script, does anybody have anything that they would like, a topic or anything that they would like to suggest for a conversation here? I mean, I can come up with stuff because I'll just pull stuff out of the marketplace.
I have a comment.
All right.
I just want to say that, Dan, I remember Zen Intergalactic Ninja was probably my second indie book that I ever collected. in the 80s. The first one was the Tick. I'm talking the Tick issue 1. And then Zen, when I discovered the Diamond catalog, and I learned you could order books from that, and that was, probably, I don't remember the year. I was still in grade school, and I was buying comics. And Zen I'm like, what is this? This isn't Marvel or DC. It's an indie book, and I just remember that. That's forever in my mind.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
I think I have a Zen toy. Do I have a Zen
Okay,
toy?
so-
I think I have a Zen toy.
So Dan, you did the oh, cool.
You got that guy?
I got that.
That's awesome. So you did
awesome.
that is so cool. So you did the Tick, Dan?
No,
Oh, okay. Okay.
same era. Same
Oh,
era.
okay. I was like, wait a minute. Now I saw the Tick and Mothman on cartoon once.
Mhm. Yeah, we started at the same time as the Tick and the Ninja Turtles, and they got rich. We didn't.
You know
Did
how
you guys
that
ever
crap
do a
goes.
crossover with the Turtles? Did Zen ever do a crossover with Turtles?
No,
No.
no. We had the same. We had the same licensing agent. That's the only thing we had in common. But they didn't want us interfering with their momentum.
What was the publisher?
Archie was publishing Turtles then. And
No, for
they
you,
did.
for
They
Zen.
did. Archie also published the Zen series.
Oh, wow. Cool. Wow.
So we had that in common. Yeah.
Okay.
So, who here likes the marketplace? Okay, I see one hand, I see two, I see three, I see four, I see five. Man, it took you guys a long time. I'm feeling a little hurt. Merry Christmas.
The what?
What marketplace are we talking about?
Oh my God, who said that? Is that you, Chad?
Yeah.
Oh my heck, I'm talking about the crypto comics marketplace.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about my stocks.
No, nobody likes that marketplace. You mean the stonks?
You gotta be specific, man.
Dude, I don't know much outside of the crypto comics marketplace, man. It's where I like, go to read and to see all the coolness that's really out there. And I just want to again thank everybody here for being a part of the crypto comics marketplace with us. I know that where we're at right now in beta is pretty unfortunately it's not getting you guys the money yet, but our goal is to get you the money. Something that was said several times is you guys are doing something that you all love, and our philosophy is you should get paid to do something that you love, and then the world would be a happier place because everybody should be doing what they love.
I would also add that for me, the crypto comics marketplace is definitely a long-term interest because what we're going through right now, just broadly speaking, culture is really fragmenting into lots of tiny little shards everywhere, except you have a few megalithic entertainment companies that are consolidating like all of the viable market share. And they are exerting a lot of control on the journalistic coverage of entertainment and everything else. So there are these massive and very powerful players in entertainment that are doing their best to keep everyone else out of the game. And so for small people like us, we can do our best to gather up an audience and gather scraps on our own, but we really do need some sort of a unified place where we can pull people together and effectively show them cool stuff where they decide if they want to check it out rather than being told what to like by corrupt, journalistic outlets and fake stuff. And so having some place that's genuinely a meritocracy, that's actually open to everybody, it's not just like a nice feature. Like we really need this, and we really need crypto comics or something like it. But I think you're already ahead of the game. So we need something like that, and I'm hoping even events like CouchCon can be another thing that brings people like us together. Because obviously, individually, we can never compete with these massive monopolies. But if you get a lot of independent people coming together and sort of trying to do some cross promotion and having points in time where we do try to focus and, you know, combine our strengths, I think it could actually lead somewhere, and it might make the whole market more viable for everybody, is my hope.
I love that. I love that.
Well, and Joe, go ahead.
You know, I mean, not to, I mean, everybody has been making really good points, and it's come from a place of knowledge, you know, and experience. But at Starcross, that's actually the whole point of our existence is that we brought in individual, you know, one-person studios where they had their own publishing, and we all came together under one awning, you know, and became one studio instead of individuals trying to, like, you know, scream out, you know, look at my stuff. I said, what if we all come together and then everyone's looking at everyone's stuff, you know, and then we can all yell together and it's louder. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the whole point of how we came together. So I like what you're saying.
Gemma.
And this is something I learned in college that, you know, just kind of blew my mind about creators and art, is that we're not competing against each other. Artists and writers and creators, you know, when you're growing up and when you're like in that younger mindset, it's all about competition. Like, how can I be better than this person, win against this person, right? And like when it comes to creating art, you're not stealing other people's audiences. You're not trying to steal, you know, audience from someone else. You're not directly competing with someone else. You know, everyone who's on this panel right now, we're not actually competitors. We're supporters of each other. And, you know, art is a community. Comics are a community. And, you know, a lot of young people are worried, like, someone's going to steal my stuff. Someone's going to steal my ideas. You know, someone's going to steal my stuff. I can't share it because they're going to steal it. And the thing is even if someone out there was going to steal your idea, they're a different person from you. And no matter what, even if they have your script down to the letter, they're going to do something completely different with it. And, it's just like we can all take these different ideas and do something new and different because we are all individuals. That's the thought.
Yeah, that is awesome. Amy.
All right,
Go ahead, Amy.
And on that note that kind of Gemma was saying, in terms of, yeah, we got to remember that we're not competitors at all. The great thing with I felt with crypto comics is I am the complete noob amateur in here. And so there's just the sheer fact that you can have someone who is completely brand new come in, and there is no competition. We're all on the same level in the marketplace. So you can come in and see, you know, someone who's been around for 20 years, and you can see someone who's been around for 20 days at the same time. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Putting everybody on the same level. You know, the coolest thing, I love what's being said right now, because the idea of unity is so needed in these times. And you're so right. You know, it's not a competition. It's kind of like what creators need in this space is the ability to be able to shine, be able to get credit for their work, be able to get it out there, and really, you know, and when you have a bunch of people working together, maybe coming from different walks of life, because we're all different and we're all unique, which I love that aspect, Gemma. But because we're all different, because we're all unique, we're bringing uniqueness together to benefit each other. And that is such a remarkable thing about this industry that has been somewhat kind of thumbed or stamped down, or they've tried to hold it back almost. And I just don't think they're going to be able to. I don't think they're going to be able to hold it back, because the people in this industry, the creators and the fans, are so impassioned and so incredible. Like, it's just always awe-inspiring to me to work with you guys, because you guys grind it out. I mean, you guys grind it out and it's inspiring. So thank you all. Thank you all for being so awesome, so open, so unified in a common goal that is we want to share our creations with the world and let people, you know, enjoy it, or if they don't, they can find somebody that they do enjoy. Go ahead, Matt.
On that note, I got a question for all of you guys. I guess Jamie, let's start with you. What is your favorite book besides your own inside the marketplace? Oh, you're still on mute. Let me unmute you.
Oh man, now he's like straight up like dictator over here. Dude, he's like, and he doesn't even know how to use it. Oh my gosh, man.
Okay.
Did you figure it out? No, he still hasn't figured it out, Jamie. He still hasn't figured it out.
Good?
No. Hit your mute button, Jamie. Nope, it don't work. What's
on?
Come on. Hold up your cover, Jamie, just because we want to see your comic. Because it's awesome. Yeah.
Sorry about this. What is going on?
Yay! Yeah. So wait, what question did you ask, Matt?
What was his favorite book inside besides his own inside the marketplace? Which means you can't hold up the cover.
Okay, just 1 second. He's got dude, I like this, man. He knows freaking sign language.
There we go.
He's gonna show us. All right. While he's looking that up, who else wants to fill this? You cannot name your own book. Does anybody have a favorite and Jimmy, you can't name Chad's. That's not fair.
I could just jump in. Unfortunately, I haven't had time to read anything for fun for a while, but on my list, I want to read RE because Dan Coate is talking from experience, and that's interesting to me. And I've seen Gemma's art, so I'm going to be reading one of hers, and that's my plan.
Awesome. Yeah. Both excellent. I love Ree. That and Children of Eldair is incredible. Like such a compelling storyline. You just get drawn into it. It's so awesome. Joe, do you have a favorite in the marketplace?
Well, David stole my answer, so I'm, you know, I would have phrased it the same way too.
Dan.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I did a review when I first got on. I read this book by someone who had, it was very personal, intimate, revealing, emotional story.
Out of order.
Out of order.
Out of order. Yes. It was just so honest and amazing.
They were actually
that's been my favorite so far because it was pure honesty and like really vulnerable.
They were actually doing this on this panel today.
Yeah, shout out to Mike and Soul.
Yeah.
That comic made me cry. Gun-Ghoul. Nice. Will Callaghan. Awesome.
Okay.
Love that comic.
Nice.
All right. So David and Joe have copped out. Dan has given us legitimateness. Gemma, do you know? Come on.
Anthony Wolf's Relics.
Oh, nice.
Enjoy.
His stuff is good. His
It's a
stuff
lot
is
of fun.
really good. All right, Chad, you got something?
Jimmy will attest to this. I am horrible with technology.
No, we believe you. She already attested to it.
I do not get online. I don't do social media. Like, it is a small miracle that this crap's working right now. if it wasn't for my students, everyone's like, dude, how are you twitching? I'm like, you got to ask my students. Like, they set that up. Okay. So, I'm sorry. I am sorry. I am,
Hey, it's all right. It's all right. When we hook up with you at the conventions, you love it.
Yeah, you better bring your books to the convention.
Oh, we will. We will. Okay. Jeremy?
Well, Gemma took mine because I was going to go with Relics. I mean, fantasy bounty hunters. You can't go wrong with that. It's a fun looking book. I've only had a chance to look at the zero issue. I haven't had a chance to go through the whole series yet, but I plan to. However, I did not know that Dan's series read was on there. I don't know how I missed it, but I met Dan before. I've known him for years. I love his work. So now that I know what's on there, I'm definitely gonna go and check out Read. So that skyrocketed to the top of my to read list.
Right on. It is awesome. It is awesome. Like I was like I nailed it. I nailed it. Corporate sucks. I nailed it right there. Cardell, you got a favorite in the marketplace? Can't name your own.
Although I haven't started reading it yet, Extreme Champion Tournament looks.
Oh, XCT, Sean Keenan.
Yeah.
That guy gets really intense with the history, Matt was really keying in on some of these historical facts that I was completely clueless to. He's like, oh, did you know this? I'm like, dude, come on, man. I've got like a 5th grade education. Freak. I can barely read. Thank goodness for pictures. I love comics.
All right, Amy, what about you?
Okay. Well, everyone said a lot of them that are all really great that I would answer too. But I'm gonna kind of steal a little bit of what Joe said yesterday in your panel, to highlight the fact that you can have super duper amateurs in there. So I love Kung Boy and his stuff. If you go and look at his profile, he's only a teenager. He's like 12 or 13, I think. And it's totally like pen on paper. And I just think it's great that there are completely young ones in there working on stuff and putting it out there.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. That was awesome. I appreciate you guys, let me put you on the spot, because we all know that y'all be busy as all get out. So actually having the chance to check something out is asking a lot. So thank you all for letting me put you on the spot. That was awesome. That was awesome. So do any of you think we're going to have any conventions going on this year? Besides CouchCon? Besides CouchCon, because CouchCon's going right now.
I'm hopeful.
There better be.
Are you in Vegas, Cardell? Is that where you're at?
Yes.
I grew up there, so we gotta hang out.
Huh?
I grew up in Vegas, so we gotta hang out.
Oh yeah.
That's where all my family's at, and I'm bummed beyond all words that Amazing Las Vegas is not happening. So.
Oh God, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But
yeah, definitely when things reopen, I'll find you.
Oh yeah, yeah. That would be awesome.
Bringing creators together. This is so awesome.
Dude, we'll make up a party. Yeah, let's do a party, guys.
So that will be, or that's all that we have time for today. We went over.
Wait, Gemma, and then are you guys wanting to say something?
Go ahead,
can we do a quick, where can we find each other thing online?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, yes,
thank you. Gemma, you're so awesome. You know it. Okay, so actually what I would like to do, if you guys are cool with it, is I would like to just call on each one, and then you guys can actually plug wherever people can go. That would be the best. And then also Fry should have access to everything that you guys have as well, so he'll be able to get links put in as you guys are plugging, which is fantastic. So let's start with Amy.
Okay, so you can find me on Facebook, Gypsy Leaf, GYPSYLEIF, and on Etsy, you can buy prints and stickers and stuff of my artwork on Etsy, and that's under Gypsy Leaf Art, Etsy.com. So that's where you can find me, and also on Crypto Comics. My books and stuff are mostly all on Crypto Comics, so I'm on there.
Okay. David.
There we go. Well, I do a comic. You can find that at dreamkeeperscomic.com. And the publishing company we run is Vivid Publishing. Go to vividpub.com. That's got links to our comic and our authors. And hopefully it's a lot of fun. Oops.
Oh, everything just changed on me real quick there. Chad.
I'm on, this is such a Jimmy question. I'm on Facebook, which is actually half the time it is Jimma on Facebook. So
Not supposed to say that, Chad.
Half the time it's Jimma on Instagram. Where else? Patreon, and then Kickstarter right now with Art of Chad Harden Volume 3.
Where can I get a Gemma of my own?
You got to teach.
That's
teach. That seriously, no, and that is the cool thing about being an educator, is that your students will teach you way more than you teach them. So, for sure, give it a whirl. Go adjunct to class.
Right
Joe.
Go to starcrosscomics.com and sign up for the newsletter. If anything, go to our Facebook page, message me, Joe Spicer, on Facebook. We have 5 Kickstarters coming out in the next month and 2 months. We got the new Tribulation Task Force, Killer of Kings, Blood Count, Starcross United, and Biblical Proportions, which is going to feature 20 characters from 20 different creators, even creators from outside our company with other companies. So it's going to be a massive crossover. So if anybody wants to message me about that, they can. I like working with, all you guys too. If anyone wants to message me, if, hire you or cross over your characters or anything you want to do, just reach out to me on Messenger or starcrosscomics.com.
And Cardell.
The absolute best place to find me is on my website, www.top2 by csc2.com. From there, you can pretty much get on everything else. And of course, my comic books are also on Crypto Comics. That's going to be the exclusive digital. That'll be the exclusive program to get my digital comics on.
It's so awesome. All right, Jeremy, did you go yet?
So my comic is Morningstar. It tells the story of Lucifer's fall from heaven, told as a Western. And you can find it at my website. It's just my first name, GERIMI.net. And from there, you can find the comic, my store. It'll also have links to my YouTube page where I live stream twice a month. I've got one scheduled tomorrow where I show me working on the latest issue of the comic. It's also got links to my Instagram and my newsletter, the easiest way to keep track of everything I do. And Morningstar, all 7 issues that have been published so far are also available on Crypto Comics.
Thank you. Gemma.
You can mostly find me on like Instagram and Twitter. My social media handle is Gemma M. Young, and you can find links to all of my stuff at gemmayoung.com. And I also have the comics Children of Elder, Temerity, and Zelda's Lullaby. They can all be read on Webtoons if you're on Webtoons, on the Webtoons app. I'm also running 3 Kickstarters. One is for Chad Harden, so go check it out, The Art of Chad Harden 3, and you can get the other 2 books as well. And then I'm also running the Art of Starbite, and hopefully we can drop a link in that in a minute. But here's the Art of Starbite, and then I'm also doing my own little Kickstarter, which is doing pins, heart enamel pins, and rupees from the game The Legend of Zelda. They're so shiny.
Cool.
and D20 pins and things like that. So
Oh, those look awesome, Gemma.
yeah. So there is
Man, that's
trying to
really
get the good lighting there. There we go.
yeah.
Aha.
That is excellent.
So if you go check that out, those are all live on Kickstarter right now.
Thank you, Dan.
Hello. I got a few things going on. I got on crypto comics. As far as Zen stuff, you want to buy that through First Comics Publishing, and that's First with a 1 and then FIRST. They're the publisher. So if you want a hard copy of the books, that's your source. I do have a Zen Intergalactic Ninja website, but if you want to really, help me out and buy stuff that I've made, I've got Eye Candy Universe. It's a website, and I got all kinds of cool swag there, like this cool shirt, and mugs and stuff. But that is another side passion project. It's not comic related. It's just fantasy, otherworldly artwork. Definitely worth checking out. And yeah, I'm on Facebook with Zen and Eye Candy Universe. For a non-marketing guy, I'm kind of all over the place. I'm kind of surprising myself right now. But anyways,
eyecandy.com, .net, .org.
It's www.eyecandyuniverse.com.
.com. Okay.
The Zen site though is zenintergalacticninja.weebly.com because it's free. If you throw in the Weebly, so I don't want to pay extra for straight up Zen. But that's a good. I mean, it's a good resource. It's a historical resource that tells everything you need to know about Zen, Intergalactic Ninja, and yeah, that's what I got going on.
Awesome. Now we did have 2 creators that had to jump because we're running, I think, we're running over a little. I apologize, everybody. So thank you all. Thank you all for your time. You guys are all awesome, the greatest in the whole universe. Thank you. Give yourselves a round of applause. Woo!
You guys are amazing.
The two that weren't here are Music Maker. The Music Maker is her comic book, and you can find her on Facebook. And then Zolik is the other comic. You can find them on Facebook, and they're both in the crypto comics marketplace as well. Everyone on this panel has a profile link, and during CouchCon, we are opening up those profile links so anybody can join and help us in the beta testing of the marketplace right now. But with that said, and when I say but after something I've already said, that means everything I said before doesn't mean anything. Please go buy their stuff. Thank you.
Peace out.
You guys are awesome. Thank you. Woo! Thank you. Oh, you guys are awesome. I love you guys. Have a great weekend. Enjoy CouchCon.